Hey guys, Adoma here. You are welcome back to my exclusive romper tutorial. This tutorial teaches you how to make this cute pineapple romper on your screen. I made a vlog some few days ago, and yeah, it was just a vlog where I chit chat on how I made this, and then I showed you all the process. I would like you to check out that video as well if you want to know more technicalities about this. But this video is going to concentrate on strictly the tutorial, which is going to be in two parts. So this is going to be the first part, and I would like you to subscribe, turn on your post notification, and give this video a thumbs up. Most importantly, we keep on growing, and then yes, you don't miss out on the crochet tutorials I upload. This pineapple romper is inspired by a Pinterest design and then a Portuguese designer named Duda Bishiato. I'm gonna make my second sample, and I'm selling this on my Instagram store. You can check it out in the description if you want to purchase or make a custom order. Let's get right into the video. Thank you so much for clicking once again. For this project, I'm going to use the Yeye yarn of the lightweight. Okay, we have the extra and we have the regular. This is the regular of the lightweight, but you can choose any category 2 yarn if you are not getting this yarn, because this is mostly found in Nigeria and there are so many extra yarns that have the similar feel as Yeye. So it's up to you to decide. So I'm gonna use a 3.0mm hook and a pair of scissors as well, and some stitch markers. To begin the project, you are going to pick up your yarn and make a slip knot. So make sure you grab your yarn, as you can see, cross it just in that circular motion, grab the loop on it, and then pull the loop under the circle. You're gonna have this loose circle from the onset. Now make sure that you have it secured, and then you are going to take your 3.0mm hook and chain a total of 3. Okay, this chain 3 counts as a stitch. Okay, so after you chain your total of 3, you are going to yarn over, insert your hook into the space, which is a circle, yarn over, pull through 2. You are not seeing this clearly, but you are going to yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through all 2 loops. Go back inside the same space and add an extra double crochet. Okay, so we now have 3, since the chain 3 counts as a stitch. After this process, we are going to chain a total of 2, go back inside the same space and double crochet. Okay, and add an extra 2, making a total of 3 double crochets. Okay, so we are going to do a total of 8 consecutive double crochets separated by chain 2s, and this is how the process is gonna look. Okay, so we have done 2 so far. After that, I'm going to chain 2, go back inside the same space, add an extra 3 double crochets. So you must know how to double crochet before you even click this tutorial, because it's one of the basic stitches. So put your 3, as you can see. Now we have 3 clusters of double crochet. It's kind of tight because my nails is getting in the way. So as you progress, after this cluster, you chain 2 again, go back inside the same space with 3 double crochets. Chain 2, go back again, 3 double crochets. You now have 5 clusters after this. So you just have to count the number of clusters you have so that you keep it on track when you are crocheting. So 5 clusters. Now I'm trying to pull the loop just to close the circle a little bit to make it comfortable for me to crochet. Okay, so chain 2 again, go back in the same exact space, add a total of 3 double crochets, making 6 clusters now. Okay, chain 2, go back in the same exact space, 3 double crochets, making 7 clusters. Chain 2, go back in the same space with a total of 3 double crochets. Making 8 clusters. So now I'm pulling my loop to secure the hole, just to tighten up. Do not pull too much, just to keep it relaxed and circular. Okay, so I'm just making sure that it's flat enough. Make sure you do that, especially if you are using this same exact lightweight yarn. Yeah, so that's what I normally do. And then you can use 2 loops with the same hook size if you want to, if you are using specifically this yarn. My tension is a little bit tight, so I prefer using 1 strand. So after that, you are going to chain 2, okay, and then slip stitch into the very first double crochet you made, which was the chain 3 you made from the very beginning of this tutorial. So I'm just going to slip stitch to join, and then slip stitch 2 times into the space created, okay, the chain 2 space created from this first row. Okay, so now I'm in the space, the chain 2 space. Slip stitch your way through and then chain your total of 3 to begin the next row. Go back inside the same chain 2 space and add an extra 2 double crochets. So this is going to be the first double crochet, and then this is going to be the second double crochet. Okay, chain 2, go back into the same space again and add a total of 3 double crochets. As I told you, always the chain 3 counts as a stitch from the beginning of the row. That is why we made 2 addition to the side. So now we have 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. After this, you are going to chain 2, move directly into the next chain 2 spaces. You are now working everything into the chain 2 spaces, and then place a total of 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. We are going to call this the shell in this case to make it easy for you to understand. So anytime there's a 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, is the shell that I mean. So we are creating a shell in all the chain 2 spaces. Okay, so after this shell created, okay, we are going to chain 2 and repeat this 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets in all the chain 2 spaces, as you can see me pinpointing. So make sure you chain 2, go into the space, create your shell, chain 2, go into the space, create your shell. You are supposed to have a total of 8 shells by the end of this row. So I've done my repetition all around, and I'm supposed to have a total of 8, as you can see, of 8 shells, okay, which is the 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets 8 times, separated by chain 2s. So that's what you are supposed to also have. If you are not on this track, you are making some mistake that you need to adjust. So I finished my last shell, and I'm going to chain 2 to finally connect to the very first shell I made. So slip stitch into the chain 3 you made from the very beginning of this row. Now slip stitch 2 times in order to get you into the very closest chain 2 space. Okay, that's how it's gonna look. So after this, you are going to chain a total of 3. Go back into the space with 9 double crochets. So into that same chain 2 space, you are going to put a total of 9 double crochets. Okay, making a total of 10, because the chain 3 counts as a stitch always in this case. Okay, so this time we are beginning the very first base of the pineapple, which is going to expand and close up, and we are going to see the design. So after this 10 double crochets in that same exact space, we are going to chain 2 as usual. Move to the next shell space, not this space in between, but this shell space in between the 3 double crochets chain 2, 3 double crochets. That's where you are going to work your stitches. You are not going to do that in that space. This time we are going to put a total of 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, which is approximately the shell. So you are repeating the same shell pattern in the space. Okay, so this is what you are going to have. You are going to do this repetition simultaneously of 10 double crochets in the shell, and then a shell in a shell, which is the 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. So let's do that again. Chain 2, work your stitches not in that space but in the space for the shell, put a total of 10 double crochets. So you just be counting in your head as you proceed with your total of 10 in the same exact space. And as I told you, you are not going to work it in between. Okay, so those chain 2 you made from the previous row, which connects the shells, is on its own. You just chain and work in between the shells. So after that, you're going to chain 2 once again. After your 10 double crochets, move directly into the next shell, not in between the spaces, and do a total of 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets as I taught you guys. It's the same shell repetition once again. So you are going to do this simultaneously. Chain 2, 10 double crochets, chain 2, a shell, chain 2, 10 double crochets, chain 2, a shell, until you get to the end of the row. You are supposed to have a total of 4 clusters of 10 double crochets and then 4 clusters of shells by the end of this round circle. Okay, so as you can see, I'm doing my 10 double crochets right now in the shell after chaining 2. They are always separated by chain 2 spaces, in this case for some time or for some number of rows, so you must take notice. So yes, as you can see, you chain 2 again and then move to the next shell space and put a total of 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. Chain 2 and then go into the shell space, the chain 2 for the shell space, and then make a total of 10 double crochets. Chain 2, and then this is going to be your final shell. Okay, so in the shell you do the same exact repetition of 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets in the same exact space as you can see me demonstrating. And you are going to have this flat circle, not looking perfect, okay, but it's a little bit wonky because we are progressing. So after this, we are going to chain 2 finally and slip stitch into the very first chain 3 you made for this row. Okay, just to connect it and begin the next row. Okay, so for the next row, it's gonna include the same 10 double crochets except that it's separated by chain 1. So to begin, we are going to chain 3 and then add an extra 1, making a chain of 4. Go into the next exact double crochet and put a double crochet there. Okay, as you can see, chain 1, go into the next double crochet, put a double crochet there, chain 1, go into the next double crochet, put a double crochet there, chain 1, double crochet into the next stitch. Okay, so you are not skipping anything, you are just chaining one in between. You are supposed to have a total of 10 double crochets separated by chain 1 spaces by the end of this 10 double crochet shell which we created from the previous row. So you have to count it in your head. If you have less or more, it means you have added extra or you have missed a stitch, and you must have a total of 10, or else it's gonna affect your next progress. It's really essential. So what I do is that I count in my head anytime in order to have 10. So I have 10 double crochets now separated by chain 1. We are moving to the next portion. Moving to the next portion, I'm going to chain a total of 2, go into the shell, and then create a total of 2 double crochets. Chain 2, okay, and then go back inside the same space with a total of 2 double crochets. Chain 2, go back inside the space, 2 double crochets. So this is the only variation. We are expanding our shell. This shell has 2 chain 2s. That's the difference between the previous shell and this shell, because we are expanding our shell as we go along with this progress. Okay, you're going to finally love this repetitive pattern when you get this, so just take notice. And yeah, let's explain. So simultaneously we are going to repeat the 10 double crochets separated by chain 1, followed by the double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, with the 3 faces. Okay, so after that, I'm going to chain 2 as usual, move directly on top of the very first double crochet for the 10 double crochets, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, go into the next double crochet, chain 1, until you have a total of 10 separated by chain 1 spaces. And if you have worked with the pineapple stitch, you should be familiar with this pattern, because it's kind of common. Okay, so when you have your 10 separated by chain 1, make sure you always chain 1 in between. We are going to repeat the same thing for the shell, which is a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, not 3 but 2 this time, separated by 2 chain 2s. Okay, so guys, after my simultaneous repetition of 10 double crochets separated by chain 1s, and then you chain 2, and then do your 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. This is what I have. Okay, I have repeated this all around. Don't get confused at this section, because it's the same repetition simultaneously, so you can just repeat to get on track if you are lost here. So I finished my last 10 double crochets separated by chain 1, and I've chained 2. Okay, so I'm just going to move to the final shell just to demonstrate it to you again. 2 double crochets, okay, chain 2, go back in the same space, 2 double crochets, and then chain 2, and then put a total of 2 once again in the same exact space, nicely created. And after that, you are going to chain 2 to connect to the very first chain what's the name, pineapple pattern you made. So chain 2, slip stitch to the very first double crochet, as you can see, and then voila, very perfectly done. Okay, so this is what you are supposed to have. Take notice of this. If you are not having something like this, then there's a mistake. As I said, there's always a simultaneous repetition, and that's important for you to take notice at this section. Okay, so for the next sector, we are going to slip stitch, okay, into the next space, just to get into the space, okay, to create a very first loop for this pattern. Okay, so chain a total of 4, single crochet into the next space. Please do not skip any space at all. So now you are going to do this repetition by chaining 4, single crocheting into the following space. Okay, so just chain 4, look for the next space, chain 1 space, single crochet nicely, chain 4, go into the next space, single crochet. We have 3 chain 4 so far, and we are going to have a total of 8 for this very first section. Okay, so if you end up not having a total of 8, then there's an issue. Okay, so just move along, chain, go into the next, chain 1 space, single crochet, do not skip, chain, go into the next space, single crochet, until you have a total of 8 chain 4s. And then finally, this is going to be the 8th, the last chain. So chain 4, single crochet into the next space. Okay, so you are supposed to have this 8 chain 4s nicely created on the pineapple design, which is going to be extended as we go by. Okay, so now we have 2 simultaneous repetition, which is the shell and then the pineapple detail. Please take notice of this, and this pattern will be the most easiest you have worked on. So after this, you are going to chain 2 as usual, just to separate, as usual. Go into the very first chain 2 space, not the one which connects the shell to the pineapple, just the one in between the very first shell, and then put a total of 2 double crochets in that same space, as you can see nicely. Chain 2, go back into that same space with a total of 2 double crochets. Okay, so you are supposed to have a shell right in the very first chain 2 space for the extended shell, which has 2 chain 2 space, and you must take notice of this. For the next section, chain 1, okay, and then move directly into the next chain 2 space, as you can see right here, and put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets, just like how we did for the very first section. So you are going to have this nicely created 2 shells, okay, on its separate own, separated by just a chain 1. Okay, as I told you, the shell extends and then the pineapple also closes up. So after that, I'm going to chain 2, find the very first chain 1 space for the 10 consecutive the 10 double crochets we created, separated by chain 1, not in between the chain 2. So that chain 1, just single crochet there, put your first single crochet there, and then you now can chain 4, go into the next space, single crochet. Okay, 1 port created, chain 4, go into the next space, single crochet. 2 ports created, chain 4, go into the next space, single crochet, chain 4, go into the following space, single crochet, chain 4, go into the following and single crochet until you have your total of 8 chain 4 spaces created. Okay, if you have less, you have a problem with your pineapple, which means you have to unravel and fix this issue. This is going to be the last chain 4, And now we have for this pineapple, and we have 8 now, as you can see, just like how we did for the previous section. So now this is going to be a simultaneous repetition. You should figure this out as time goes by. After this, we are going to chain 2, create a shell, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets right in the same space, the chain 2 space for the very first shell. Chain 1, go and do the same repetition of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets in the same exact space. So apparently this is going to be a simultaneous repetition. Always chain 2 when you are going to connect it to the next section. So now this is going to be where we work our chain 4s, 8 of them, making sure that we just chain, go into the next space, single crochet, chain, go into the next space, single crochet, as I've taught you in the 2 previous pineapples. Okay, and then when you get to the shell aspect, you know what to do. We are going to create a shell in the chain 2 spaces separated, okay, because we have 2 chain 2 spaces. So one shell in the first chain 2 space and another shell in the following chain 2 space. Make sure that you are not working any kind of stitch in between the chain 2s that connect the pineapple to the shell, okay. So now, yes, we are now done with the pineapple. So after this, I'm just going to chain a total of 2. As usual, move to the next shell and do the same repetition. If you're having any issue, just replay again to see how it's done, but it's pretty simple. We are going to do the same thing for the other pineapples until you get to the end of the row, okay. And then it's pretty easy to work with. It's an addictive pattern if you take thorough notice of how it works, okay. So now, as I told you, you chain 2, go in the chain 2 spaces created for the shell, not in between the one that connects the pineapple to the shell. Take notice of this. That's a mistake some people do, and they have funny work at the end. So I'll meet you at the end of the row. Okay, all right. This is what you're supposed to have after your repetition, okay. Pretty easy, pretty simple. If you followed the procedure or steps, you should have something like this. If you are not, please replay and get on track, okay. So I'm just going to move directly to the next section, okay. I did my 8 chain 4s and my shell nicely, as you can see, and now I'm gonna connect it to the very first pineapple we made, okay. So I'm gonna connect it with a chain 2. So just chain 2 after your last shell completed, and slip stitch, single crochet into the very first chain 4 created, okay, for the very first row. So just single crochet. At this point, make sure you place a stitch marker here to aid you so that you do not forget that you are beginning a new row, because it gets a little tricky. For the next row, we are going to chain a total of 4, single crochet into the next space, okay, chain 4, single crochet into the following 2 pots created, chain 4, single crochet into the following 3 pots created. The pots is the chain 4, obviously. Chain 4, single crochet into the following stitch, okay. So chain 4. Why does this keep happening to me? Chain 4, and then go into the next space, single crochet, chain 4, go into the following space, single crochet, chain 4. This is going to be the 6th one, so this is a 6th pot, chain 4, go into the next space, single crochet. So as you can see, we have a total of 7 chain 4s, okay. So this is when the reduction begins for the pineapple. Previously we had 8 chain 4s. This is going to be 7, so it's reducing by 1 chain 1 each time as we progress, Okay, if you are familiar with this should be easy for you at this section. So after this, you are going to chain a total of 2 and then move to your shell pattern, which keeps expanding basically. So you are going to chain 2, and then in the very first chain 2 for the shell pattern, we are going to put, don't go in between that chain 2 always, I keep reminding you. We are going to put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. For the next session, we are going to repeat a V. Sorry, did I say repeat? We are going to create a V stitch in the middle. So in between that, in between the 2 shells, we are going to chain 1 first of all, and then put a double crochet over there in between the 2 shells, chain 2, go back inside the same exact space with another double crochet. Okay, nicely created. That's the V, right like right there, created in between the 2 shells. After that, you chain 1, go in the next shell and create your regular 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, which is the shell basically. So nicely created right there. So now it's obvious you can see the simultaneous repetition. Okay, after you work this for each part of the shell, you are going to do the same chain 4, single crochet chain 4 for the pineapple design, making a total of 7 chain cluster of chain 4s, and I'm gonna repeat this afterwards. So yeah, that's how the simultaneous repetition is gonna be. Okay, so let me demonstrate to you the pineapple. As usual, when you chain 2, you single crochet into the first, you chain 4, single crochet into the next, chain 4, single crochet into the next, until we have a total of 7. As I explained earlier, we are going to reduce it to 7 this time. The previous one was 8 and now we have 7, and that is a good notice to take. So now the simultaneous repetition evolves around this nice circle created, as you can see, and yeah, it's just nice. Okay, so just make sure that you are working along nicely, and yeah, so we are going to do this simultaneous repetition all around. When you get to the shell aspect, you do a shell in a shell and then do the V in between, and after that you do a shell again, and then you continue with your 7 clusters of chain 4. So this is what you are supposed to have so far. After this repetition, nicely done. Okay, I've made my repetition all around, nicely created, as you can see. And yeah, if you are not having something like this so far, it means you have some issues you have to take care of. As I told you, this is a process, so you can't make some mistake, unlike working with other stitches. This is like a pattern, so if you make a mistake, then you have to find out by replaying and rectify. So yes, let's move on. Okay, so for the next session, I'm placing my stitch marker there. I made sure I chained 2 to single crochet in the very first board, and as I told you, you have to always stitch mark the place so that you know that you're beginning the next row, or else you might lose count of the rows. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. So after chaining 4 single crochets into the same space, that's the first chain 4 created, I just place my green stitch marker there nicely, as you can see, and then I'm going to chain 4 single crochet into the following, and then chain 4. This time we are going to have 6 clusters of chain 4s. Okay, as I told you, it reduces by 1 each time when we are working with this pineapple pattern, and it's a great thing to take notice. The previous one was 7, this time we're going to have 6. Okay, so just do your basic chain 4 single crochet, chain 4 single crochet, nicely created. And when you are done with this, finally we are going to chain 2, go into the very first shell, and then put a total of 2 double crochets. Okay, chain 2 double crochets in the same exact space, creating the same shell. And after this process, you are going to work in between the V and the shell. So to do that, you are going to chain a total of 2, okay, and then single crochet in between the V and the shell. So into that chain 1 space, single crochet, nicely created, chain 2. Now go inside the V created from the previous row and put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2, and then go back to the same space with a total of 2 once again. So that's it. Chain 2, go in between the V and the shell, the chain 1 space, the small chain 1 space, and single crochet, and then chain 2 again, and then go into the shell space with a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets, nicely created. So this is how your extension for the shell portion is gonna be, and it's gonna be a simultaneous repetition at all sides. As you can see, when I cover it up, this is the shell place. You are going to do the same thing right over there. Okay, all right guys, so this is how your process is gonna look after your repetition. Okay, as I told you, the pineapple keeps decreasing. Okay, so now with the shell, in between the V, you will make sure that you chain your 2 single crochet in between, and then do your shell in the V in all the patterns, the shell portion for this dress. So now we are going to chain 2 and then connect to the very first chain 4 you made. Okay, you can see the stitch marker there. That's why it's actually beneficial for you to place your stitch marker over there, so that everything becomes super easy for you. Okay, so I'm just going to single crochet there, and then chain 4, single crochet into the next space. Okay, you can place your stitch marker in the chain 4 you just made, so that you keep track as we did for the previous row. And then you chain 4, single crochet into the next space, you chain 4, single crochet into the following 3 pots, and then you chain 4, single crochet into the following 4 pots, and then you chain 4 and do your final single crochet into the last space, making 5 pots. So the previous one was 6 pots, and now we have 5. As I told you, it keeps reducing by 1. So we are expecting to have this. So you can see the pineapple neatly made, and now we are moving to the shell portion. To the shell portion, we are going to chain a total of 2 as usual. 1, 2, and then you are going to target the very first chain 2 for the shell, and place a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets as usual. So a shell in a shell, and now in between the V where you did your chain 2, single crochet, chain 2, you are gonna make some variation, because that place is also going to expand. Okay, So you remember that we have 2 chain 2s in between these 2 shells created, okay? And now since we are going to work the variation, there will be an expansion which will be proceeding throughout the pattern, okay? So now this is what you are going to do. We are going to chain a total of 2, okay? So chain 2 and then single crochet into the very first chain 2 space, okay, just right here as you can see, and then chain 3. Go into the next chain 2 space and put a single crochet there, okay. Chain 2. Now move into the chain 2 in between the shell and place a total of 2 double crochets. Chain 2, 2 double crochets in the same exact space, okay, nicely created. And then after this section we are going to do the same thing, okay. So you realize that the ports are now 3. The previous one was 2. Now the chains are now 3, okay. We are expanding. The next one will be 4, and then vice and then proceeding. So that for the next section we are going to chain 2 as usual. Target the very first chain 2 space from the previous row, single crochet, and then you chain 3, single crochet into the next space, and then you chain 2 and then move to the next shell and create a shell in the chain 2 space. So 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, nicely created. Okay, so after that we are going to chain 2 and then single crochet into the very first chain 4 space for the pineapple, and then the pineapple decreasing begins, okay. So not in the chain 2 space, some mistakes some people do, as I told you, into that space instead. After this you are going to chain a total of 4, single crochet into the next space, and then do this till you have a total of 5 ports. So finally done with your total of 5 ports. This is how your pineapple is supposed to look like. And yeah, you should have this nice pineapple detail. And yes, do this. As you can see, we have the shell part, okay. Repeat the same thing I taught you for the shell aspect. I'm gonna demonstrate it to you now again so you don't get confused. So when you chain 2, do your shell in your shell as usual, which is the total of 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. And then when you get in between the 2 shells, you are going to make some chain increases, okay. So first of all, you are going to chain 2, single crochet into the very first chain 2 space, chain 3, single crochet into the next space, and then chain 2, and then do your shell in the shell, okay. So you realize that the chain spaces, which was previously 2, is now 3, as I said previously. So the next one is going to be 4, followed by 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, okay. So we are going to stop when we are at the 9th portion, and you must take notice of this always. So after your shell, you are going to chain 2, single crochet into the very first chain 2 space in between the 2 shells, chain 3, single crochet into the following, and then chain 2 again. Go in the next shell with a shell, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. Hope this is getting easier for you. So since this is going to be a simultaneous repetition, you can replay the portion where I explained both the pineapple and the shell expansion and you're going to do it for the other side. As I told you, the pineapple is 4, so whatever you do for that pineapple, you do it for the all other side. And whatever you do for the shell spreading, it has 4 portions as well. You are going to do it for all the other portions. Okay, so you have worked on 2 portions so far for the shell aspect, and then we are proceeding to the pineapple, which will be connected with the chain 2, and then we are going to chain 2. We have a total of 5 chains. Okay, 5 chain 4, sorry. So yeah, that's how the pattern works. Simultaneous repetition always, and just do this. I'll meet you at the end of the row, show you my progress, and then we move on. Okay, all right, this is the end outcome after repeating so many times this pattern. If you take a good notice, I just finished my shell, okay, my last shell, and as I told you, in between the shells we have 3 separate chains, okay, and then we have the shell in the shell. So this is where my stitch marker is, which is the very first chain 4 I made. That's why it's essential to utilize your stitch marker at this portion. So I'm gonna chain a total of 2 to connect to the very first chain 4, which was made for the pineapple, and then single crochet to join. So finally we have ended the row. Okay, so that's how the row ends, with the chain 2 and a single crochet in the very first chain 4 you made, okay, which is where the stitch marker is normally placed. So now we are going to proceed with the next portion of pineapple, which is also a decrease. Okay, so you are going to chain 4, single crochet into the next space. You can place your stitch marker there so that it shows that that's the first section you worked on. You chain 4, single crochet into the following, chain 4, single crochet into the following, until you have a total of 4 of the chain 4s. Okay, so the previous one was 5, now we have 4. It will go to 3, 2 and 1. Okay, so I'm placing my stitch marker at the very first chain 4, just not to lose track, and I'll be messed up at this point. So I recommend you do the same thing I did with the stitch marker. Okay, all right. So after your 4 chain 4s, you are moving next to the shell portion. First of all, you are going to to continue, you are going to chain 2 and then do your shell in the shell, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, and then all right, after that you are going to proceed with the expansion of the chains. Okay, so now we are going to have 4 chains. The previous one is 3, as you can see. The next is going to be 4. Yeah, so it's expanding, and that's what we need for this pattern. So what you're going to do is to chain 2, single crochet into the very first chain 2 space created in the previous row in between the shell, chain 2 once again, go into the next space as you can see, and single crochet, chain 2 again. Okay, go into the next space and single crochet. Now chain 2 and then create a shell, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets right in the shell, nicely created as you can see. Perfect. So now you have 4 chain 4s, chain 2, sorry, I always get confused. You have 4 chain 2s right here. The previous one was 3, the next one is the one we just did is 4, the next is going to be 5, followed by 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, nicely done. So we are going to do the same thing at the next expansion of shell as well. So this side as well, you can see that we have 3 chain 2s. Okay, so after that I'm going to chain 2, go into the very first space, single crochet, chain 2, go into the following, single crochet, and then chain 2, single crochet into the next space, and then so chain 2 and then move to the shell with a shell as usual. And now to the pineapple aspect, you are going to do your repetition as usual. So you are going to chain your 2 single crochet into the the very first chain 4 space, and then you chain 4 until the pod closes up. As I told you, the reduction is always 1, so this time you're gonna have 4, and then it's gonna happen at all the other sides. We have 4 sides of the pineapple, as you can see, and that's how the process goes. Okay, so this is how I got my project done after the repetition. As you can see, nicely created. Sorry, I have it nicely created. We are going to move to the next row quickly. We don't want to waste time because this row is going to be long. That's why it's divided into 2 parts or more, obviously. So after this, we are going to chain after chaining 2 to secure to the very first chain 4, we are going to chain 4 single crochet into the next space. As you can see, I'm placing my stitch marker there to aid me in knowing the very first chain I made for, and then know where I began my next row. Basically, after that, I'm going to chain 4. This is the second pod. Chain 4 single crochet into the next space, so third pod, nicely created. Yeah. So we are going to have 3 pods. The previous one was 4, and now we have 3 pods. As I told you, reduces by 1 every time. And now to the shell aspect. After your 3 chains, you're gonna chain 2, move to the shell with a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets, as you can see, as usual. And then after this, you are going to move with your increase of chains. Okay, so we had 4 chains. This time we are going to have 5, so you have to have this in your mind. So this time we are going to chain 3. So chain 3. The previous one was chain 2, so now you are chaining 3 because it's kind of expanding. So chain 3 single crochet into the next space, chain 3 single crochet into the following, chain 3 single crochet into the next, chain 3 single crochet into the following, and then chain 3, and finally do your total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets in the shell stitch. Nicely created, as you can see. So now we are going to have 5 chain 3s, and if you don't, there's a problem. But I'm sure you guys do not have a similar problem where you have to unravel the whole pattern, so just pay attention. So for the next section, we are going to do the same thing again. Let me teach you. I like to teach you guys thoroughly. We are going to chain 3 single crochet into the first space, chain 2 space, chain 3 into the next space, chain 3 into the following space, chain 3, into the next space, and then finally chain 3 and do your shell in the shell as usual. You're going to have 5 posts, just like how I taught you. I just wanted to demonstrate to you so that you get back on track. So that's what you're going to do at the other 3 sides of the shell. Okay, and each 3 sides is expanded to 2, so in other words, it's like 6 sides. Okay, and then for the pineapple, you know what to do. It reduces to 3. We are just going to do the same chain repetition until you have 3 ports. If you don't, there's a problem, you have to unravel and check. So I'm going to do this, and I'll meet you at where the stitch marker is. So finally at the end, as you can see nicely, we have our repetition done. This tutorial is going to be so extra long. Anyway, let's resume the process because it's extremely long. Okay, so I ended with my chain 2 single crochet, and I'm going to make my very first chain 4. Okay, so you are just going to chain a total of 4. That's going to be your first chain 4, single crochet into the next space, and then place your stitch marker in the very first chain 4 you made, just to keep track of that place and then you don't get missing. Okay, that's what I do for all these rows. So after that, you're going to chain a total of 4 and then single crochet into the next space. Okay, so now we have 2 chain 2s for the pineapple, chain 4 for the pineapple, which means it's decreasing, and we finally have 1. So now moving to the shell aspect, you're going to chain 2, move to the very first shell and do a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets. And then we are moving to the chain aspect. It's gonna increase by 1, so we are going to have 6 this time. The previous one was 5. 1 2 3 4 5. So we are going to chain 3, single crochet into the next space. This is the first port, chain 3, single crochet into the next space. This is the second port, chain 3, single crochet into the next third port, chain 3, single crochet into the next fourth port, chain 3, single crochet into the next fifth port, and then chain 3, move directly into the next shell and do a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets. Nicely created. Okay, so yeah, what you are going to do here is the same thing I'm going to do here. Just chain single crochet, chain single crochet until you meet the shell, and then you make sure you chain 3 before you go into the shell. And yeah, guys, I hope this is detailed enough because I'm showing you everything right detail. I'm giving you all the details here. Yeah, so as I told you, chain 3 single crochet into the space, chain 3 single crochet into the space until you have a total of 6 ports. So this is the 5th one, and chain 3, this is the 6th one, which you are going to do your shell in the shell, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets in the same exact space, and then you chain your 2 to move to the pineapple, which will reduce to 2 spaces, basically like how we did from the very first section. Okay, so we are going to do this at all parts, and I'm probably going to meet you at the end. Okay, since we are going to reduce to 1, since we are going to reduce to 2, and then the next one is going to be 1 for the pineapple, and then the chains for the shell opening keeps expanding, like the shell in between the shells keeps expanding. And yeah, that's how fun the process is. Okay, so do this all around, and I'll meet you at the end, show you my progress, and then we can begin the next section. So guys, this is how your project is gonna look after you complete. Okay, so I've repeated as I demonstrated all around, and the chains in between the shells keep on expanding by 1. So I've single crocheted to join my very first where I place my stitch marker, and then I'm going to chain a total of 4 and single crochet right into the next space. So now if you take notice, as I'm placing my stitch marker in the chain 4 created, you realize that we have 1 space left for the pineapple detail now, which means we are gradually getting to the end. So after that, we are going to chain a total of 4 and then move to the shell and repeat your regular shell of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets as usual. So therefore we are going to chain a total of 3 and a single crochet into the very first chain 3 space in between the shell, chain 3, go into the next single crochet, chain 3, go into the following single crochet. You have 3 ports now, chain 3, go into the next single crochet, 4 ports, chain 3, go into the next single crochet, 5 ports, chain 3, go into the next single crochet, 6 ports, chain 3, go into the shell with a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets, which simply means that we are now having 7 ports in total, which means the previous was 6 and we now have 7, which shows evidence that we are increasing. So we are going to do the same thing at the other side of the shell detail. All you have to do is just do your chain, single crochet, chain, single crochet, and you're going to have your 7. When you get to the pineapple, you make sure that you place your shell and then chain a total of 2 single crochet, chain 4, single crochet into the next, just to create 1 port, like how I just demonstrated to you. You can replay in order to aid you. So that's what I'm going to do at all the 4 sides of the pineapple until I meet my stitch marker, and also I'll work the shell. Okay, all right, so I've worked all around my pineapple and I'm back to where my stitch marker is, which is the exact beginning of the row. So you should have something like this. If you don't, then you have to replay and rectify. Okay, let's move on to the last but one section of this square detail, which has really been hectic. Okay, so make sure you count. I have 7, as you can see, 7 chains in between the shells. So after your last shell, you are going to chain a total of 4 single crochet into the very first chain 4 created from the previous row. So you can now remove your stitch marker and place it right in the single crochet, because this time we have exhausted our ports. Right now we are just doing chain 4 single crochet in the middle of the last port, and then we are going to chain 4 right there and go into the shell directly with your regular 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets, as you can see. And since you have exhausted the port, this is the look you are gonna have apparently. So yeah, this is the look you are going to have apparently. You are just chaining, single crochet in the middle, chaining, meaning you are exhausting your ports. So after your shell, you are going to chain 3 single crochet into the very first space, chain 3 single crochet into the next until you have a total of 8 this time. The previous was 7. We are increasing to 8 ports or chain 3s. Yeah, so that's the variation. This is the points where we have our total of 8 chain 3s. So this is the 7th one, and then you chain 3, go into the shell, and finally put your 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets in the same exact space. So yeah, this is what you are going to have. You are going to do the same thing at the other side of the design as well. You realize that it has elongated, it has a peak now, and it keeps expanding. Okay, so I'm trying to count my space. You are going to do the same thing at the other side, and then make sure you repeat the same thing for the pineapple, like how I taught you, right? Shell here, chain 4 single crochet in the middle, chain 4 shell here, as you can see, and you are going to be fine. I'm going to repeat this at the other 3 sides of the pineapple until we meet our stitch marker. Alright, so I have repeated it all around. Take a good look at this. Nicely created wherever I have to place my shell, I do, and then I just do my chain 3, single crochet, chain 3 until I have my 8, and then I'm back to the very first pineapple. Realize that all the pineapples are now having closed spaces. Okay, so yeah, that shows we are getting to the end. So this is the last shell created. Okay, right from here, you are going to chain 1, skip all the spaces created, move directly into the next shell and put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. Nicely created. Yeah, so this is going to be the last row if you have not taken notice yet. Okay, so after that, I'm going to chain 3, single crochet into this next space, chain 3, single crochet into the following until you have your total of 9. If you have been listening to me, realize that I tell you that the chain in between ends when it's at the 9 aspect. So we are basically making this square nicely, as you can see, and then the second part is going to be a repetition, kind of a dress technicality, which is one of the most important things I will need to explain here. So yeah, finally we are having our 9 chain 3s, and then you go into the shell and do your usual thing, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. And this is what you are going to have. So you are going to repeat the same thing at the other side, and then you are going to repeat what I did for the pineapple. Okay, this time, since the pineapple is closed, you just do a shell, chain 1, and then a shell in the following shell. Okay, just to close up the edge. I'm gonna repeat this all around till I get to the very first one I made. You can see right on your screen now. All right, I did this all around, and yeah, I'm just loving the process so far. It's not looking bad. So yeah, that brings us to the end of the first part of this video tutorial. You should have a square, a wonky square, or basically something that looks like this, for us to begin the second part, which will include V. Okay, which include the V and the armhole. So where I've placed my stitch marker is where we are going to do the armhole, and we are going to reduce the end, and the V extends to the back. We are going to understand this if you click the end screen. I'll be linking the second part right here and also in the description box. So I'll meet you there.